Hey everybody, this is Darren Van Dam, and you are watching Flick Connection, the show that helps you get more out of movies. And today I'm going to be doing a spoiler-free review about The Little Things, the latest crime drama starring Denzel Washington and Jared Leto, currently available on HBO Max. So for those of you that don't know, HBO Max did a deal with the parent company Warner Brothers, and all of Warner Brothers' major theatrical releases are going to be hitting HBO Max on the same day that they hit theaters. The Little Things is the second one to do that. There's going to be one every single month this year. The first one was Wonder Woman back at Christmas. Now, I did do a full review of Wonder Woman for channel members, and there will be a spoiler review for The Little Things where I talk about the ending for channel members as well. If you're interested in becoming a channel member, you can click the join button below and see what the details are with that. And before talking about The Little Things itself and what I liked and didn't like about it, here's just a little bit of setup as to kind of what's going on with this movie. So this is written and directed by John Lee Hancock, who's probably most famous for The Blind Side, which he also wrote and directed. He also did The Highwaymen for Netflix, the sort of Bonnie and Clyde thing that came out last year. And this one was slated to come out in theaters, and it's got an incredible cast. Denzel Washington, Rami Malik is doing sort of his first big thing after Bohemian Rhapsody. But in a COVID-free world, he would have been known a little more as being a Bond villain in the new James Bond movie, which was supposed to come out last April, but this came out first. And everybody's really good in this movie, but I've got some little things to say, no pun intended, about some of the performances. But first off, let's talk about the actual story. Now, I think that this is done really well. This is a good script. It takes place in the 90s, and it feels a little bit like a throwback, like something that may have come out in the 90s. And that is one of the things I didn't particularly love about the movie, is that the way it's directed is just very straightforward, and there weren't a lot of surprises, specifically in terms of the way that it was directed. There was just no style to it. However, Denzel Washington and some of the other performances we're going to talk about, but specifically his, really elevated this movie to the extent that, I'm not sure how many other people could have done this role. His character in particular, had he not done it, or someone of his caliber, which are not many, I don't think it would have worked. It would have been really dull, really boring. The character, the way it's written, doesn't have a whole lot to work with, but Denzel Washington is one of those actors that does an amazing job, again, no pun intended, with little things in his performance. I've said this for years. I've recently said that he dies the best on screen. If you ever see him die in a movie, he does a really good job of doing little things during the death that really make it stand out. Even in otherwise mediocre movies, he's able to elevate it, and that's the case here. Now, I'm not calling this a mediocre movie, but again, the way that it's presented is just kind of flat, yet the performances are all elevated. Now back to Denzel, he does, again, just pay attention, he does some little things like sort of clearing his throat before he talks to somebody, a little look, very, very subtle things, but if you're keyed into it with his performance, you can really notice oh, he's telling me a lot. So that is one of the things I like the most about this movie. Not just his performance, but the fact that I got to know more about his character a little bit at a time. His performance kept informing me a little more as to sort of what was going on under the surface without actually explaining it to me. Now, this is a standard police procedural. That is a really hard word for me to say. Making it a little bit dry, but the steady pace as to what things were revealed, I really liked. Now, this one does go into some very dark territory. It reminded me at moments of movies like Seven. In fact, I think there are several moments where it tried to emulate Seven, but again, it just lacked the style. And an interesting side note, Denzel Washington was actually cast to be in Seven, or at least he was heavily considered for it, or even maybe offered the role. He turned it down and has famously regretted it. He thought it was too dark, and once he saw the finished product, saw that it was basically a masterpiece and wished that he had been in it. Maybe him deciding to do this movie had something to do with him regretting not being in Seven, and I think that that's okay. But whatever led to him being in this movie, I think it was necessary for him to be in it. Honestly, if this was done on a smaller budget with people that didn't have the acting chops that he has, it would have been pretty dry. Now, speaking of acting chops, Jared Leto's character, if you've seen the trailer, he looks wild. And it's a thing with Jared Leto where he's often heavily costumed. It's part of the way that he likes to perform. And I found it a bit distracting in this movie. His look was a little too, he just goes too far with it sometimes. Sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't. This is a case where I'm not going to say it didn't work, but I had to sort of go with it. I didn't just organically buy that he was this hyper intelligent person with this horrific hygiene, greasy hair, pot belly, weird bow-legged walk. It didn't quite work for me, and the only reason I'm going on about it is because when you do watch this, I do think you have to overlook that in order to go with it and not let the story lose you, because it almost did because he was a little too over the top. That said, that's one of the few negative things I have to say about the movie. That, and I didn't particularly like the score, but that is nitpick territory. Now, Rami Malik, again, from Bohemian Rhapsody and Mr. Robot, he's a fantastic actor, but he's also kind of odd. He felt a little bit out of place. However, the fact that he was there, Leto, and Denzel's doing sort of his real sort of low-key thing, I enjoyed watching these guys perform together on screen. For instance, there is an interrogation scene, and I love interrogation videos, just even as a hobby. I watch them on YouTube. They're very dry, and they can take a very long time. The one in this movie does not, and it's not realistic as a result, because they end up pressing a suspect way too quickly, but they did it in this really entertaining, performative way that kept me engaged. In fact, I felt like even though there was a slow pace to this movie, it was pretty steady and it continued to ramp up rather than having a bunch of highs and lows. There was one point sort of past the halfway mark where we did hit a lull. Point being, other than that, it did have a nice steady pace to it. I'm not going to call it fast paced, but it was a nice steady pace. And really, if I'm going to talk positively about the movie, there were some very clever moments in it that I really did enjoy a lot. It would have been a good trip to the movies. It didn't blow my hair back, but it did keep me engaged, and I found a lot to really love about this movie. I just didn't love the movie overall. That said, watching it on HBO Max and having it included is just a really nice treat. And it's not this big spectacle thing like Dune or something like that I'm probably going to want to see in a theater. It was very nice to watch at home. You do have to actively watch it because everything that is said is important. This is not something to put on and play with your phone. But if you like crime dramas of any kind, even if you just like true crime TV, this is a really good one to watch. It's exceptional, especially if you put it in the pool of things released directly on streaming. It's very exceptional. In fact, it's so exceptional, I have a lot more to say about it. I have things to say about the ending, the beginning, details of some of the crime scenes, and I'm going to be doing that for channel members. If you're interested in becoming a channel member, there is a link in the description below. You can go check it out and see if that is for you. But I hope you like this quick review to give you an idea if this is a movie you maybe want to watch this weekend, or hell, maybe it's a movie you want to get HBO Max for. I'm not sure I would get HBO Max for this movie, but if this is just the beginning of the type of stuff that they're going to be releasing every month, then this is a good sign. But I will keep making reviews as long as you keep watching them. Thanks for watching my review of The Little Things, and you will see me on the next one. Unless you're a channel member, you'll see me in just a minute with some spoilers.